Hello everybody, welcome back to MTG Bulk Mythic. Today I have the pre-release kits I just picked up from my local game store, and I'm going to be cracking one of these guys open because this weekend is the Spell Table event. So just like they did with the Time Spiral Remastered block, they have a Discord chat set up for pairings to use Spell Table and your webcam to play some pre-release sealed deck Magic. I have all 5 of the guilds here. I've ordered one of each, and I'm going to choose one for the event. The other 4 will open up a little bit later on, but I didn't want to get into all 5 of them because it's kind of a lot of deck building to get into. Just pick one, play out the event for the weekend, and then we'll move on to the other ones. I've thought about it quite a bit, and I was kind of torn between Witherbloom and Quandrix, but I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with Quandrix for this one event. I don't know, later on when we open up the rest of these, we'll find out how wrong I actually was. Or did I choose the best guild for me? Let's go ahead and crack this thing open and see what's inside these pre-release packs. If you haven't done this before, pre-release is generally the first time anybody can get their hands on these cards. So up until now, it's just been looking at the previews from Wizards of the Coast and their affiliated content creators and reading different websites, seeing what there is to be had. So when you open up the box, the sleeve right here just kind of holds everything together. And then you have the reusable deck box here. They will come with a spin down D20. And they're usually different colors. So, in line with the theme of Quandrix, this is blue and green. It actually has the the college symbol as the number 20 on the die. Set that to the side. You can use that as a life counter or whatever have you. Then you have your packs that come in here. Inside the packs, you're going to have a small pamphlet with some deck building tips and tricks if you haven't done it before. For limited, you'll have your pre-release foil rare. And in this case, I got Cody, the Vociferous Codex. It's a 3-mana rare legendary artifact creature. So it has a 4 and tap to add Wooburg, and then cast your next spell this turn. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile an instant or sorcery card with lesser mana value. Until the end of your turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put each other card exiled this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is essentially instant and sorcery cascade on a card. And then you can see here, they used to put the date stamp over here on the corner, but they've switched it up. Now there's the 2021 year in foil stamped on the corner here. I imagine they did that just because there are some differences in the actual dates that some of these events are going on, right? So some places we actually have in-store play, and they're actually doing pre-releases. Other places they're not. They've had issues with card availability, all that kind of stuff. So instead of putting a hard date on the card, they just went ahead and put the year on there. So you still know this is your pre-release promo, and then you get a code on here. Don't try to use this code. It won't work. I'll have put it into my account on Arena by the time you see this video. But as we open up some of the other packs, I will offer up some of those cards for my viewers. You get a little divider here to divide your main board from your sideboard inside your deck box during the event. And you can play this rare, and then everything else that's inside this box becomes part of your card pool. So let's look and see what we have. We have 5 normal 15-card draft boosters of Strixhaven, and then you have one 15-card pre-seeded pack. Now this pack has the same rarity distribution as a normal booster pack would, but all these cards are going to be geared around Quandrix, or the color pair that I chose with the booster pack. So let's see what we got to kind of point us in the direction of wanting to play these cards. So we got Quandrix Pride Mage. It's a 3-mana 2/2, so it's a generic mana and then 2 hybrid blue or green. With Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on the Pledge Mage. That sounds pretty powerful in limited. With if you're able to put some of these non-creature spells in your deck, it's going to help you out. We got a Quandrix Campus to help us in our mana fixing. Then we got Fractal Summoning. So this is create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the generic mana you spent to cast this spell in addition to the hybrid. So this is a non-creature spell, but it creates a creature. Because everybody knows in Limited you need to be able to create creatures. It's definitely a creature format. But to trigger Quandrix Pride Mage, this essentially is summoning a creature, but giving you a +1/+1 counter, which is a big deal. A good synergy there. Then we have the Soothsayer Adept. 1 in a blue for a 1/3 that you can use to loot with its activated ability. Serpentine Curve is a sorcery for 3 generic in a blue to create another fractal creature token. Put X 1/1 counters on it, where X is 1 plus the total number of instant and sorcery cards you own in exile and in your graveyard. So this is definitely a mid to late game play to get one more creature based on the non-creature spells you've cast. Then we have the Professor of Zoomancy. It's a Bear Druid, a 4/3 for 4, and it creates a 1/1 black and green pest creature token that when it dies, you gain a life. So this is actually Witherbloom, but because it's green, it's still playable in a blue-green deck in Limited. We have a Needleborn Drake, 2 mana 1/1 flying Death Touch. Field Trip, to search our library for a basic forest card and put that on the battlefield tapped and shuffle, and then Learn. And Learn is the new mechanic where you can go into your sideboard and take a lesson card, like Fractal Summoning here is a lesson, so I don't even have to put that in my library. I can go leave that in the sideboard, and then whenever I cast a spell with Learn, I can go to my sideboard, take that, and put it into my hand. We have Curate. We have the Zimoni, a Quandrix Prodigy, 2 mana 1/2. That allows you to play an extra land by paying 1 and tapping it, or pay 4 and tap it to draw a card. If you have 8 or more lands, you can draw 2 instead, so it helps you ramp. Solve the Equation. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So this is a tutor for instants and sorceries. Aether Helix. Sorcery, return target permanent to its owner's hand, and then return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. And then our mythic rare in the pack is Tanazir Quandrix, which is the Elder Dragon of the Quandrix College. 5 mana 4/4 with flying and trample. When it enters the battlefield, double the number of +1/+1 counters on a target creature you control. And then when it attacks, you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Quandrix power and toughness until end of turn. So if you have some fractals out there, this synergizes with them really well. You get to double the number of +1/+1 counters on one of those fractals, and then when it attacks, you can make that fractal, which normally has a base power toughness 0/0, a base power toughness 4/4, plus the +1/+1 counters that are on it, and really boost those guys up. Then we have an elemental creature token, a fractal creature token on the backside, a pest, and another fractal. So those will be useful in this. And then we have one of the write-in cards for your modal double face cards. Did not get any modal double face cards, I don't think, out of this first pack, but we'll hang on to that just in case we need it. Let me double check. So the modal double faces, the front face is going to have the front face symbol here, and then you'll have the back face symbol on it. This is the new symbol to identify those lessons, and it doesn't look like I got any double faces yet, but we might need it. So that's what they did to make sure you at least had a decent base of cards in the college that you chose to give you a higher probability of actually playing the one that you chose. Now we have the other 5 regular booster cards to see what else we can get. So depending on how this pool goes, if we don't get anything else in Quandrix, we might have to switch to something else. But here's Owling Shield Mage. I'm actually going to make a different pile of gold cards so I can keep my Quandrix separate. Letter of Acceptance is mana fixing, 3 mana, tap to artifact that you can tap to add mana of any color, and you can pay 2, sacrifice it to draw a card. So that's basically playable in every single deck in Limited. Here's a Prismari Pledge Mage, Twinscroll Shaman, Scurrid Colony, a 2 mana 2/2 with reach, and it has +2/+2 as long as you control 8 or more lands. Lash of Malice is the +2/-2 until end of turn instant. So it can pump up one of your creatures if it's tough enough to take it, or it can kill one of your opponents. Soothsayer Adept. Pay 1 a blue, tap, draw a card, discard a card. So that's the looter that we already opened one of. Here's another lesson. It's the Lorehold lesson, 1 and hybrid 2 hybrid red-white to create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Explosive Welcome, divide by 0, return target spell or permanent with mana value 1 or greater to its owner's hand, and then you can learn. So this is, it can either return, like essentially counter, it's a soft counter, return a spell on the stack to its owner's hand, or return a permanent from the battlefield to its owner's hand, as long as it has a mana value of 1 or greater. So it can't target tokens, which is a big deal, and it can't target lands. Here's Decisive Denial, another Quandrix card here. It choose 1, target creature you control fights target creature you don't control, or counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 3. I like that one quite a bit. Leonin Lightscribe here, 1 and a white for a 2/2 cat cleric with Magecraft. So this is the first time we've seen Magecraft. It's another new mechanic, and Magecraft triggers whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, and then it has an additional ability. In this case, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. That's pretty powerful, and I already kind of saw it peeking out there, but here is Harmonize as our Mystical Archive card. And this one, this one is done by the same artist as the, was it Faithless Looting? And the artist got quite a bit of flack for the art on that card. Faithless Looting, I will say, I really did not find the art to be attractive. I do like this art much more. And Harmonize being that classic draw cards in green that every green deck needs because you can never draw enough. And if we stay in Quandrix, we're going to be able to use that. And here's a Fractal token to go along with. All right, moving along here. Let's try to pick up the pace, get through the rest of this pool so we can figure out what we're going to play. Cram Session, Withered Bloom, 1 and green black hybrid. You gain 4 life and learn. So because this is a hybrid, we may even be able to play it in Quandrix. Here's Withered Bloom Campus, if we want to splash even. Blood Researcher, the whole first part of this pack is Withered Bloom, it looks. So it's a 3 mana 2/2 with Menace. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on the Researcher. And here's the Pledge Mage, 3 generic and 2 hybrid black or green with Magecraft. It's a 5/5, and whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you gain a life. So those two right there synergize with each other directly. Curate is the anticipate analog for the set. So look at the top 2 cards of your library, put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest back on top of your library in any order, and then draw a card. So a little bit of scry, a little bit of card draw, keeping things going for your blue decks there. Mage Duel. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you cast another instant or sorcery spell this turn. It's normally 2 generic and a green, and target creature you control gets +1/+2 until end of turn, then fights target creature you don't control. So the green fight card right there, that extra 2 toughness is a big deal, by the way, for winning those fights. Crushing Disappointment in black. Each player loses 2 life, and then you draw 2 cards. Ageless Guardian. Here's a lesson. It's one of the colorless lessons. So 5 generic for Introduction to Annihilation. Exile target non-land permanent. Its controller draws a card. So these colorless lessons are a little bit overcosted, but they're done that way so that they don't affect constructed, but that allows them to put enough lessons in the booster packs that basically any deck or any color combination will be able to play with the learn mechanic. So in limited, they open up new opportunities and new abilities within your decks. Then they're overcosted essentially to stay out of constructed. Then we have Mage Hunter. It's 3 and a black for a 3/4. Whenever an opponent casts or copies an instant or sorcery spell, they lose a life. Rip Apart, the sorcery speed removal spell for Lorehold. Devouring Tendrils, 1 and a green. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. And then when the permanent you don't control dies, you gain 2 life. So this is the bite card. So we have the fight card and the bite card. Good removal there in green. And here's our first modal double-faced. It's the Torrent Sculptor, which is 2 and 2 blue for a 2/2 with Ward 2. And Ward basically says when this is targeted by a spell an opponent controls, that spell gets countered unless the spell's controller pays an additional 2 generic mana. And then when Torrent Sculptor enters the battlefield, exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. Put any number of +1/+1 counters on Torrent Sculptor equal to half that card's mana value rounded up. So a 2/2 for 4 that can basically ensure that it resolves isn't that powerful. Then it permanently pumps itself. And on the back is Flamethrower Sonata. So the front half of this card at least is playable. We'll have to look into whether or not we want to put that in the deck. And then we have a Duress for our Mystical Archive card. That's the art on that Duress is really awesome though too. Check that out. I like it. And then we have an Avatar from the Blood Avatar, whatever card. Maybe we'll find it in here. That's a modal double face as well. All right, about halfway through here. Here's Silver Quill Campus. Another Silver Quill card here with Rise of Extus. And another Silver Quill card with Spiteful Squad. So that, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but that's at least 2 packs where the first 3 cards were all of the same college. And then it kind of moved into the more random stuff. But we got Arcane Subtraction. Target creature gets -4, -0 until end of turn, and then you learn. So that's the combat trick to make sure that you can protect one of your attacking creatures. It can oftentimes help you win against a blocker or be prepared to block against a big attacker, kind of stump their attacker there. Another Professor of Zoomancy. Professor's Warning. Here's Professor Onyx talking to Rowan and Will. Choose one, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, or target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Pillardrop Rescuer, Curate again. And here's Elemental Summoning, another lesson. Create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. And again, being hybrid, I can play it in my Quandrix deck, and I don't have to even put it in the main board because it is a lesson. So I can go ahead and learn that card when it becomes beneficial to me. Honor Troll is a 2/3 for 3 with Vigilance. If you would gain life, gain that much life +1 instead. And it gets +2/+1 as long as you have 25 or more life. Umbral Juke is an instant for 3. Choose one. Target player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker or create a 2/1 Inkling creature token with flying. And then Returned Past Caller. So look at the mana cost on that thing. 3 generic, a red, a hybrid red, white, and a white. For a 4/2 with flying, and then when it enters the battlefield, return a creature, a spirit, instant, or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. And it is a spirit, so if you get more than one, you can use the other one to return one from your graveyard and continue to cast them to return each other if they get killed. But it's a 4/2 with flying for 6. And then you have Daemogoth Titan, an 11/10 for 4. It's 4 black-green hybrid for a creature demon, and whenever it attacks or blocks, you have to sacrifice a creature. So depending on how many tokens I can create, that might be playable in this deck. I really don't think I'm going to end up using it though. And here's another green Mystical Archive, Adventurous Impulse. Look at the top 3 cards of your library and reveal a creature or land card from among them and put them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. I do see myself playing that in limited. Allows me to continue to make sure I have the lands that I need and or keep creatures coming into my hand. The question right there is, though, if I'm going to be playing a lot of instants and sorceries that create creatures, it reduces the number of creature targets for it. But if I'm splashing, it can also help me dig to the lands that I need too. The Rise of Extus, Exhilarating Execution. And then we have Dragon's Approach. Another Mage Duel. Green is looking really good for me here. Let me kind of move these things around, make sure I put stuff in the right place. Yeah. All right. Ageless Guardian, Resculpt. Exile target artifact or creature its controller creates a 4/4 blue-red elemental creature token. So you can exile your own artifact if it's no longer useful for you. Here's another colorless lesson. Scry 2, then draw a card for 3. So this is probably one of the better ones for a colorless lesson. Here's Emergent Essence, which tutors for a basic land, and then that land becomes a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token with +1/+1 counter for each land you had entered the battlefield under your control this turn. So that could be on a normal turn. If you play a regular land for turn and then cast this, it turns that land into a 2/2. and it stays that way for the rest of the time it's in the battlefield, but it's also still a land. But if you're using like not Adventurous Impulse, but they have Cultivate in here as well, or something else that allows you to play an extra land in that turn, you might be able to make it a 3/3. Who knows? Here's Creative Outburst. Snow Day instant for 4 and blue. Tap up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their control's next untap step. Draw 2 cards and discard a card. So you end up a card with this and tap down 2 of their creatures for 6 mana. That's pretty close to what you'd want to do for 6 mana, but that late in the game, you better hope you still have a board to be able to play it. And speaking of Cultivate, right here. So this Emergent Essence just looks better right now. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards. Put one on the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle. So I can very easily splash with this deck right now. I've got a Cultivate. I've got an Emergent Sequence. I have an Adventurous Impulse. So basically, if I want to go to 3 colors, or maybe even 4, that might be a stretch, but given my campuses, I might be able to do it too. It just depends on how bad I want to do it, or how good the other cards are. All right, Infuse with Vitality, Witherbloom instant until end of turn. Target creature gains Death Touch, and when this creature dies, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, and you gain 2 life. Relic Sloth, Lorehold Campus, Unwilling Ingredient, another Arcane Substraction, Professor of Zoomancy, Professor's Warning, Confront the Past. So this is the rare. Wow, this rare is before the uncommon. So this might be, because I think there's a guaranteed lesson slot in every pack, which might this might be, which might mean I have an additional rare coming up in the pack. I do. So lucky me, I get 2 rares at least, right? So this is Liliana reliving herself being saved in the fight against Nicobolus there. So it's X and a black to choose one. Return target Planeswalker card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, or remove twice X loyalty counters from target Planeswalker and opponent controls. So if I want to sneak a swamp into my deck, in Limited, I can just leave this in the sideboard in the event I just happen to play against someone who has a Planeswalker, right? And then we have Mercurial Artist, Spell Satchel, 2 mana artifact with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, put a book counter on the satchel, and then you can tap it to remove a book counter and add generic mana, or pay 3, tap it, remove 3 counters to draw a card. All right, you go over here. And then Eyetwitch, which is the Eyebat. A 1/1 for 1 with flying, and when it dies, you learn. Dramatic Finale. 4 white-black hybrid for an enchantment. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1, and whenever 1 or more non-token creatures you control die, create a 2/1 white and black inkling creature token with flying. So it turns it gives you more tokens when your non-token creatures die and pumps them up with kind of an intangible virtue effect there. So that's a pretty good card if you're in white or black. Another Harmonize. Be drawing cards all day. And a spirit creature token. So looking at this real quick. So I am really happy with the Quandrix cards that I got. I got a lot more blue and green out of these packs that support what I'm doing. But I want to look real quick at what I would want to splash. And like this, I'm not splashing that. There's no way I'm putting that much white or that much black in my deck to try to splash it. But like a single black is definitely splashable. That may be playable. I don't know how much I have as far as that's definitely playable. I don't even have to splash that. I'm playing the front half. I can play the front half of that. I can play that if I need to. I can splash the Blood Researcher. That's playable. That's playable. So even especially with this With the hybrid mana, there's a lot of these cards that I can splash for, or just flat out play, or even modal double face. Like, I don't need to be able to cast this, but if I sneak a mountain in there, then I can definitely use this. It's a rummage effect, but if you discard an instance or sorcery card this way, it also deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. So you can turn that into lightning strike or whatever have you based on what you do. Because I've got all kinds of card draw. I've got 2 Harmonize. Can you believe that? 2 Harmonize, Cultivate, Emergent Sequence, Adventurous Impulse. So being able to go find my 1 swamp or my 1 mountain is not going to be hard to do. I'm going to be creating pests. I'm going to be creating fractals. So I think I'm going to be okay. Dramatic finale, unfortunately, even with the pests and fractals, isn't going to be enough to really keep things going. But Confront the Past is going to be playable off the 1 swamp. I think I'm going to keep in there. Says Professor's Warning. I might just leave that in the sideboard if I don't need another combat trick that badly. I don't need more card draw because I've got 2 Harmonize. Duress might be better in this format than most limited formats because there are a lot of instants and sorceries that create creatures to replace creatures because it's a spellcasting theme. And Lash of Malice in the event that I need another removal or combat trick. As far as red, so I'm not even worried about white right now. I just didn't get anything to really help it out. Not going to be playing a Spirits deck. Whenever Efreet Flamepainter deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell be put into your graveyard exile instead, that might be interesting to throw in there, especially as a late game because it's a 4 mana spell. Late game, get my 1 mountain, and then be able to recast a lot of my other fractal creators. Dragon's Approach, if I need direct damage removal, deals 3 damage to each opponent, and then you may exile it and 4 cards named. I'm not going to play that. That's just too many. I don't need an overcosted lightning strike that only targets my opponent. Not playing Spirits. There's 2 Dragon's Approaches, but not enough for the alternate win con. Explosive Welcome. I'm not going to be needing that or that. So the Efreet Flamepainter is basically the only mono red card I'm looking at playing here. So Duress maybe, Professor's Warning maybe, Confront the Past will be in the sideboard as a lesson I can pull out off my 1 swamp, and then the Efreet Flamepainter to allow me to replay things like Adventurous Impulse or look at like Fractal Summoning and things of that nature. So it's going to be fun to build. I'm going to try to cut it a little bit shorter. This was kind of a longer video. In the meantime, don't forget to throw a thumbs up down there at the bottom if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel and hit that reminder bell so you can get notifications when I do open up the packs for these other colleges. Find us on Facebook for more content and conversation, and share with a friend to let everybody know that we're out here sharing our hobby together.